We're going to be breaking down Steel over on Prime Video. It's the new show starring Sophie Turner that answers the question, what if you planned a $4 billion heist and forgot to bring the mystery? Look, this was billed as a high-stakes, fast-paced crime thriller. But in reality, it was a mid-tier crime drama that needed a lot of gas across the finish line. It's got relatable characters, down on your luck, alcoholic, looking for the financial exit, it just but the story just honestly kind of starts to settle there. If you've seen any Inside Job show or movie in the last 5 years, then you've already probably guessed the ending of this one. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into why this heist barely gets out of the vault. I honestly really wanted to like this show. Sophie Turner is great as Zara Dunne. She really carries the show on her back, quite honestly. But the execution of everything just really falls flat. The biggest crime that I saw in this show was that it didn't bring any imagination or it didn't leave anything to the imagination. They tell us who the bad guys are pretty immediately. They also tell us that our leads are a part of the crime pretty quickly as well. So there's just nothing left to the mystery at all. It's like they're laying everything out in front of us so we don't even have to guess. And I guess that's kind of nice when you want to be told, but what's the point of making a mystery when you're not leaving any mystery? And that's honestly why to me this show is just this pretty standard crime drama, and it spoils all the best moments way too early, and like I said, it just doesn't leave anything to the imagination. It just gives us everything. But before we talk about how 20 million in Bitcoin all of a sudden solves a moral crisis, if you love these unfiltered deep dives and breakdowns where I tell you if these movies and shows are actually worth your time and watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'll make sure that you're not out here getting robbed of your time through bad trailers or trailers that give us promise, but just promise. And with that being said, I'm going to give you a spoiler warning as well, because I'm going to go ahead and spoil some of this show, but not all of it, because please go give it a check and let me know what you think about it as well. So let's talk about this $4 billion workday. We start with Zara, and she's a trade processor at some London investment company, just trying to, get through her daily life and just survive the days, because she's a heavy alcoholic and she loves to have a good time. So just a girl just enjoying the day. But this normal day, like I said, turns into a $4 billion heist of people's retirement funds. And just like the show did, I'm going to go ahead and tell you here that she is recruited into this cause by her coworker, Luke. And while they survive the initial chaos of everything, they're immediately plunged into this world of dread once the detective in charge starts sniffing around. And of course, because it's TV and it's a story, the detective has his own financial problems as well. So while we're getting into the story, we learn that both Zara and Luke received $5 million in Bitcoin from the guys that robbed this place. And it's for their help, even though $10 million between two people that's a small chunk off of 4 billion. But does that make them happy? No, it doesn't. It actually turns Luke into this wreck of a man, and he just starts spiraling out of control and basically wants to turn himself in and blow the whole operation up and just say to hell with it. Not knowing for whatever reason that you think that after doing something this large in scale that you would think that maybe these people are watching me, because the thieves are definitely watching Luke all while he's spiraling out of control. And of course, they're going to want to eliminate any loose ends that just happen to come up. But, in this moment, you would think that the tension is high, the drama is high. But while this had a great story, there's no tension, no drama in this moment, because they already told us about all of this. We didn't have to wonder who was chasing them because we knew who was chasing them. We didn't have to wonder if he was involved because they told us he was involved. So all the stakes that they raised, that if they had kind of kept shrouded in mystery, it would have gave off that tension that you get from these crime thrillers when they are thrilling. But predictable as ever, as the investigation inevitably starts to heat up, so does the relationship between Zara and Riz, who is the detective. I didn't say his name earlier. But their relationship starts to heat up, quite literally, because they inevitably hook up like every detective and person that's potentially a criminal in these type of shows, they have to cross paths and have some type of relationship. It's the big trope that we all saw coming. It always happens. But at the same time, we actually learn and find out that their other coworker, Milo, who was a part of this job as well, we learned was actually paid 20 million. And that's kind of where the only thing that was mysterious in the story kind of starts to unfold. He got paid 20 million. They each got 5 million. What does that really say about them? Yeah, of course. They helped pull off this massive crime as the inside guys because they were going to be planted as the inside guys because why else give them $10 million between the two? Because you're going to be the fall guys for this entire thing. And that's the only thing that they kept somewhat mysterious because even when that was somewhat revealed, it wasn't like this big shock. Oh my God, they're going to be the fall guys. No, it was like, dang. So they are going to pin it on them. Okay. But by the time we get to the finale, Zara finally realizes that this is all one big elaborate setup. And after Milo is disposed of and everything comes crashing down because the criminal organization, as always, has one person that just can't wait to get paid and I need my money now. He goes rogue and kidnaps Luke and causes a bunch of chaos and all that just so he could get to Zara and her $5 million cold wallet that he wants because he needs some money now. Personally, I think I would wait for my share of the $4 billion, especially if I'm one of the few at the top of this organization. But there's always that impatient guy. But we find out in the end that one of the financial investigators that was hired on the crime to get brought in, and I guess this was sort of a good twist, he was the person that actually set everything up to begin with. And now he's sitting at the top of the board of the company. They got the $4 billion back and, you know, the detective is pissed off because he actually solved the crime and he presented it to the guy and he basically admitted to it, but there's nothing that the detective can do. So it's just, let me go on about my merry way in debt. And, you know, it wasn't that big of a twist and it really wasn't that mysterious. And I guess maybe it's more interesting here since I just now brought up the financial detective than it was in the show because he came up in the first episode and he just knew so much about the crime. And if you've seen these type of shows and you do these type of breakdowns and you kind of start to wonder like, okay, this is everybody in the room. It could be this person, this person, this person, this person. And here's why. But in the end, Zara does come out on top. She manages to hide the $20 million cold wallet that Milo had. She's out of here. She's leaving the country. And of course, she's going to take her new beau with her. And $20 million, I'm already in debt. I'm a cop. These people don't believe me. I solved this crime and whatever the case may be. Why stand on my morals? Come on, babe, let's take this money and run. But I guess it's good to bet on yourself, right? Why not? But this show did have a few things that just did not sit right with me. Like the mystery in the vacuum. Why in the first 20 minutes, it felt like anyways, tell me everything about the show. You totally killed all the suspense that was maybe supposed to be there, but it was not there. This was unclimatic. There was no thrill. There was no drama. There was no tension. And then the detective's ethics. While he came off as this ethical person somewhat, and he's investigating this crime and trying to solve it, even though he realizes that his investigation has basically been tampered with by MI5. And I know I didn't bring them up, but they don't really have much to do with the story other than they cut a deal with Zara, which is basically how she's able to leave the country. But he goes from being this noble cop to running away with one of the people that committed this crime. Typical for this stuff. That happens more in the movies, but I doubt this gets a season 2 because if it does, it's not that it was bad or anything like that because, yeah, it could get a season 2. It's a TV show, but I don't even know where you would go when you closed off everything. Do you go steal something else or get caught up in a crime somewhere else? Maybe, but doubtful. Or maybe just have totally different people and improve the story. Well, the story was fine. Improve the thrills and the climaxes and the drama. But This show is only 6 episodes, and the pacing makes it feel like it was 15 because it is slow, slow, slow. For something that was supposed to be a quick watch, it doesn't feel like a quick watch. But like I said, it is watchable. I would call it mid. I would give it a 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10, however you want to look at it. But good show, not thrilling, but a good show. Sophie Turner is the only reason that this show is watchable and reaches the finish line. But still promise to be a victimless crimes, and rarely are these shows victimless crimes because there's always going to be victims when there's $4 billion involved. But honestly, the only potential victim in all of this are the people that watched it. And I feel for us all because while this should have been a good show, they spoiled everything too early and just didn't give us what we thought we were getting in the trailer. Well, with all that being said, please don't forget to like and subscribe and drop a comment as well to let me know what you think about this show. And I will be back for more in the near future. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.